Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a review of something that's been out for a little while, but I've been taking my time with it because I wanted to savor every juicy, or so should I say, every desiccated non-droplet of the performances. It's the Jordi Savall Beethoven cycle. Now, as we all know, Jordi Savall is a early music specialist. But for him to do Beethoven would be, for example, like, I don't know, some sort of medieval blacksmith building a computer all of a sudden or something like that. I mean, it's just not really his fach. And it's obvious here, frankly, because, well, what can I say about these performances? They are completely generic. They have few negative qualities of their type and just as few positive qualities of their type. They are period instrument average. Totally and completely average. Average! And we don't want Beethoven that's average. We want Beethoven that's special. How are they average? Well, as I've said in previous talks, the period instrument movement has made its point. It has become the new paradigm for performance of this music in many, many ways. People tend to observe metronome markings. They tend to have strings that play with as little vibrato as possible, even though that's like totally wrong. They have, sharper brass and timpani striking rhythms. Some of these are very good qualities, I think, because they're true to what Beethoven wrote. Others are simply stupid and, built on the modern need to be A, inexpressive, and B, as different as possible from what the traditional sound is. So there are a lot of competing factors that determine what makes the current musical paradigm in Beethoven performance. But all of those are here, mixed with, of course, the period instrument stuff, which these people have because they play on period instruments, and the fact that you have this very rather small string section made smaller by the non-vibrato and the period, gut strings and all the things that they do. Their sound is considerably smaller, and the preferences in terms of just the sonics, the very forward soloistic timpani all the time, which are rather annoying. It sounds like someone's kind of like knocking on a wooden desk whenever the timpani come in. You hear knock, 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 knock. It drowns out everything else. And the extremely weak bass lines, because you only have three basses most of the time here or something like that. I mean, that's totally wrong. It's wrong because you don't hear what Beethoven wrote. It's not about you play it right because we're following the rules. It's you play it right when you realize what Beethoven actually asks you to realize. But a lot of these performances don't do that. They just ignore what Beethoven actually asked you to realize in favor of following a prescription. And that's what makes this so boring. And so, as usual, the prescription works best in like the first couple symphonies. After that, it just goes to hell. Do you remember Savall did a recording? He made a recording of the Eroica a couple decades ago. And I remember when it came out, we all thought it was so exciting because it was fast and it was crude and it had all of the qualities these things have, only a little bit rougher. It was, timpani and brass that were stuck out like sore thumbs and the really zippy tempos and we listened to it with fascination because it was different. And I understand the allure of difference for its own sake, difference that sometimes supports what the composer wrote, sometimes it doesn't. And I enjoyed that Eroica. I have it. I still own it. It's sitting in the overflow room, and it hasn't held up. After getting my thrill, I haven't played it in decades. I have no desire to. Well, this is a new one, and it's not terrible. It's sort of like the old one. It's a little better played. But after that, the whole thing is just, the Fourth Symphony. I mean, that beautiful, beautiful slow movement. One of the most gorgeous movements in all of Beethoven. It's totally mechanical. It's too fast. It has no personality whatsoever. I mean, the Fifth Symphony, the finale, goes for nothing. It's a tempest in a teapot. The pastoral, boy. I mean, the pastoral, Savall still manages to have a 12-minute scene by the brook, even though there isn't enough weight and variety of tone to sustain 12 minutes of that music. And the balances just get all messed up. The Seventh Symphony is fast and fleet, and it has lots of horns. But whenever the full orchestra comes in, it's like this giant blob of sound, comes roaring in. That's so exciting. But then it cuts out, and you're stuck with this undernourished string section that can't carry. It can't carry the weight of the music. It doesn't have the strings alone don't have enough power to sustain the rhythmic energy. I mean, they're going dum ba dum bum ba dum bum for the first movement, and in the finale, dum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 dum ba da. Instead, what you hear is ba da dum ba da dum bum ba da dum. You don't hear the tune. When it's quiet, you really don't hear the tune. All the body just vanishes. The Eighth Symphony sounds almost Baroque. Well, that's what they are, Baroque. It's not supposed to sound Baroque. It's supposed to sound like a compact volcano of musical energy. The contrapuntal lines in the development section of the first movement, that incredible buildup of tension, it just doesn't build up because there's nothing to build on. It just doesn't build. And then, of course, there is the Ninth. And oh my, what an unfortunate thing that is. It's a typical period instrument performance of the work. It has an 11-minute adagio, which is the fastest movement or the shortest movement in the entire symphony. I mean, it has okay singing. It's just completely impersonal. And one thing Beethoven never is impersonal. So, I mean, I know a lot of effort went into it. I respect the players who do the things that they're supposed to do. And I never want to listen to this stuff again. You can hear the same thing in half a dozen or more other period instrument style performances because they are cookie cutters. They are all generic. And one of the things that makes the current paradigm less interesting than the previous paradigm, the one that they're all, foaming at and spitting at and dumping on, is that at least the previous paradigm allowed for the crazy conductor, the person with ideas, some sort of ability to shape and individualize the performances. But here, you just follow the rules, you feed it in, and out it comes. And they all sound the same. And so I would not know, frankly, that this was Savall or any other particular group because of the sound of the instruments or the shape of the phrasing or the ideas that govern the overall conception of each work. All I know is that it sounds like same old, same old. And it's really rather fascinating that the supposed authenticists have managed to sound so old and so tired and so uninteresting so quickly, but they've achieved it. It's that's their achievement, and that's what you hear. So I don't recommend this. I don't think you need it. I really don't. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.